A published report earlier this year claimed that in 2010, the Martinez for Governor campaign regularly used an official state database to identify political opponents by their license plates. Now, if that's true, that would be illegal. So inspection of public records requests were made and an investigation conducted. The district attorney, currently district DA, has issued its investigative report, which we've posted on our website if you want to read it. It says a large number of office emails and documents were deleted and the backup copies erased. A few emails were recovered, and they reveal conduct and attitudes unbecoming of the office. Now, Amy Orlando, who's now an official in the Martinez administration, denies any wrongdoing. And here to offer wisdom on this and other issues of the week is line regular Laura Sanchez-Rivey of Sanchez Legal Solutions. Also at the table is Rob Nicoleski of the New Mexico Watchdog. Joining us once again is former State Senator Dee Dee Feldman, and we're glad to welcome back former State Legislator Janice Arnold-Jones. Now, Laura, you've had an opportunity, like all of us, to review the investigative report. A lot of things do jump out for sure. What jumped out first for you? What grabbed you right off the bat?
Well, I mean, first of all, this has been turning into a national story. I mean, Mother Jones has picked it up. There's been postings on, I first saw it on Fox Latino.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize.
Actually online, and they had picked it up.
Okay.
So it's definitely something that's getting some national attention. Which is too bad. But one of the things that jumped out at me was just how there seemed to be a lot of efforts going on to try to hide information. Sure. You know, allegations of deleting things, missing information, all of that I think signals that there was an attempt to try to, it reminded me of the old shredding parties that used to, you know, sort of using a different medium, but you know, people just acting to try to prevent information from being shared, which is definitely, I think, signals, it raises red flags for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Senator, good to see you. A lot of things here that are on the record, so to speak, that weren't deleted, that I think Laura's getting at as well, that leads one to believe something may have happened here. Did you get that same sense as well with what we do?
Well, they were able to retrieve some of the messages that had been sent, I believe, and actually they revealed something that was really alarming to me and to the Las Cruces paper, and that was the effort to deny federal funds to the successor of the district attorney who had won the election. I mean, the whole thing goes against good public service. I mean, destroying the records, lying about the records, and then trying to make it difficult for the person who beat you in the election.
That's right.
I really don't know which is worse. It's hard to say, and it really reveals the fact that we really need to clarify and change our public records laws. So that
is it not illegal to do that currently?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
it is illegal,
so.
but the excuses are always things that are muddying the waters, saying that our law is not clear and doesn't require archiving, and every department has a different policy for how long their records are kept, you know, but destruction of public records is a key thing. And then lying about it also. I mean, lying about the fact that, oh, they're routinely, we routinely scrub our computers after a year. I think that was the statement that was made by one of the employees. Right. That's incorrect. That was found out to be incorrect very quickly.
Let me get the other others in here. I appreciate your point on that. Representative Jones, interestingly enough, the current DA, Mr. D'Antonio, has opened his own investigation. And again, I'm not quite sure where this may be leading to. What's your thought on where this may be leading to, in fact?
Well, what I think you see here is a flaunting of the law when it comes to campaigns, beginning with the governor's website or domains were purchased. There was a clear track on another case that said they were purchased from those computers in the DA's office. And I have no quarter with a campaign or anything else. If you break the law in a campaign, why should I think you're not going to honor the law once you're elected? And the other corollary, and the senator is getting there, is our system is built on an election, and the election says the majority rules. But once you have been elected, you are now responsible to everybody. And that is not happening. And to disadvantage an office because of the election is petty, and I am being very generous.
I'm going to stay with you on that very point, because one of the things that seemed to fit under that word petty is Ms. Orlando's written instructions to her staff saying do not cooperate on a federal grant for her successor, which seems to me you're denying the people of that district you know what I'm getting at here?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go back to the first point.
Please.
Once the election has happened, that is our system. And to have anybody who is leaving office to behave in that way to hurt the voters, to hurt the citizens, I find is absolutely unforgivable. You may not like who won,
right.
and you may have to hold your nose as you do the honorable thing, but I expect you to do it.
Gotcha. Interesting. Rob, again, where could this all be leading, do you think? Is it a big enough campaign issue here in the early October for Gary King? Is it a big enough, is it a problem for Ms. Martinez?
I don't know. There are a couple of things that jumped out at me. You asked, what jumped out at people. The first thing that jumped out to me was these do seem to be legitimate questions, yet I didn't see Democrats jumping up and down about Lois Lerner destroying emails and the IRS destroying emails, so that's one thing. The other thing, too, is the overall political umbrella about this.
Right.
If you do a little bit of research, if you know a little bit about what's going on down in Las Cruces, the Orlando D'Antonio rivalry has been going on for a long time.
Good point for perspective.
And also, I think maybe complicating the issue, because if it's a political issue, since Gary King is now getting involved, he's running against Susana Martinez. I think the other possibly complicating matter is that Mr. D'Antonio sends a letter saying, I think that Jamie Estrada should be getting a more lenient sentence, and yet Jamie Estrada is involved in an email flap as well, and has been convicted of that. So I think there's political, the political umbrella is pretty big in this.
That's right, exactly. I'm going to finish up with Laura on this one. One of the other revelations in the reporting was the idea that our current governor, a few days after her election, was giving instructions in that office about either cooperating or not cooperating. If somebody says jump, you jump, and if you have a problem with it, you come to me, basically. How did that strike you? Should our governor be still working in her old office a couple days after, or is that okay? There's a gray area with transitions
I mean, I think that,
things.
well, certainly if somebody's in an office, they don't take office technically until January.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think they're still in that position until the end of that year, and they take the new office.
That makes sense.
There's typically a transition period, and I think at that point Amy Orlando took over the office. But I think what's more troubling is the fact that I agree with Rob about the fact that there's been bad blood between D'Antonio and Orlando for a long time. This is a very contentious race. They had a very contentious year when they ran against each other, and there's been a lot of back and forth, and the camps are divided. But there's also sort of a legacy issue here. I mean, this is where the governor came from, this office, and she was there for many years. And so the fact that Amy Orlando came in and was sort of part of her administration before, I think it's still sort of, I mean, it's important, I would think it would be important for her legacy, for her reputation, to make sure that all things are being done properly, and that the law is being upheld, and that the people of that district, their best interests are being put forward and not these petty political interests.
It makes sense. Up next, producer Floyd Vasquez talks campaign finance.